apply. Join us now, House Minority Leader, Democratic Congressman Hakeem Jeffries of New York. Leader Jeffries, thanks for being here with us this morning. Now, in our third week of this government shutdown, one that I think most Americans and certainly many people who stopped getting their paychecks last week want to see come to an end as soon as possible. Republicans say again and again it is Democrats that are holding up this deal. How do you respond?
Well, we want to see the government shutdown come to an end as well. It never should have occurred. And unfortunately, Donald Trump and the Republicans decided that they would rather shut the government down than provide health care to working class Americans. Our view remains the same, that we want to sit down, find a bipartisan path forward to enact a spending agreement that actually makes life better for the American people, improves the quality of life of the American people, and lowers costs for the American people. We also do need to address the Republican health care crisis, particularly at this moment as it relates to extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Open enrollment starts on November 1st. Tens of millions of Americans are receiving notices as we speak that their premiums, copays, and deductibles are about to skyrocket through the roof, pay thousands and thousands of dollars more for their health care, which is going to make it unaffordable for so many people.
Leader Jeffries, I spoke with Majority Leader John Thune yesterday, and he said something that was new to me and all of us on Capitol Hill, the idea that he has privately told Senate Democrats that he would allow them a vote, though he can't guarantee its outcome, on ACA subsidies if they open the government. Have you heard about that from Senator Schumer, and do you think that might be enough to give Democrats what they've been asking for?
I haven't confirmed that that's an actual offer that has been made, but we've been very clear that we need to decisively address the Republican health care crisis. Think about this. They've enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Hospitals, nursing homes, community-based health centers are closing because of Republican policies all across the country. They refuse to extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies, but they also can find $20 billion to support this right-wing so-called leader in Argentina as part of an effort to bail out a foreign government, but they're unwilling to step in and provide support to working class Americans.
So what I'm hearing from you is it might not be enough that Thune is now saying I could do a vote or a negotiation on ACA subsidies. Would you only agree to reopening the government if it was ACA plus Medicaid rollbacks? Because I don't think that's ever going to happen.
No, what I'm saying is that we need an ironclad path forward that decisively addresses the Republican health care crisis. In terms of the Affordable Care Act, you know, this is a group of people, Republicans, who have tried to repeal the Affordable Care Act more than 70 different times since 2010. They can't be trusted on a wing and a prayer. We need a real path forward to address the crisis that Republicans have visited upon the American people in terms of health care, the cost of living, and affordability.
Leader Jeffries, good morning. We have had President Trump now on a number of occasions direct his Department of Justice, other officials, to go after his political foes. We have seen the indictments of James Comey and Letitia James. Yesterday, he named some other names he'd like to see be investigated. We also have this coming weekend, we talked about it earlier in the show, these No Kings rallies, which were large and peaceful last time around. But Speaker Johnson last night, Senator Ted Cruz, others have suggested that these events, in their words, could lead to riots. These are America-hating individuals gathering here. And combine that with the reporting from the Wall Street Journal and other places, the president trying to mobilize the IRS and other levers of government. Are you to go after his enemies? Do you have fears here that the dissent, the sacred American tradition of free speech and dissent is at risk?
Well, we certainly have no fear as it relates to this administration. They're trying to intimidate people and silence them. That's not going to happen. But it is quite unfortunate that leaders in the House and the Senate within the administration are trying to fan the flames of dissent as it relates to what has been a peaceful expression of concern, petitioning the government to change policies. And there are no kings in the United States of America, no dictators, no monarchs. The framers of the Constitution were very clear that Congress, for instance, should focus as a separate and co-equal branch of government and a check and balance on a potentially out-of-control executive branch. The problem with my Republican colleagues is that they've been nothing more than a reckless rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme policies. They are hurting the American people. Their one big ugly bill hurt everyday Americans in order to reward their billionaire donors with massive tax breaks that they made permanent.
House Minority Leader, Democratic Congressman Hakeem Jeffries of New York, thank you very much for being on the show this morning.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. All right, take care.